Right, hello guys, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, we will be covering the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller and Xbox Elite Series Core controller best settings for Modern Warfare 3 in Season 2. I will be covering those settings today for both controllers. They are basically the same controller, but I will talk about that in today's video, as I will also, at the end of the video, be doing a mini review for the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller and Elite Series Core controller to kind of help you guys out if you are one of those people who are on the fence about getting this controller. If you do already have the controller, I do have the settings for you, and if you're on the fence about getting the controller, I will do the review at the end of today's video, telling you kind of the pros and cons of both controllers. But today, let's get into it. Let's start off with the Xbox Elite Series 2 / Xbox Elite Series Core controller settings for Modern Warfare 3. And this is where we're going to start off, which is the button mapping. So, as you can see, not a lot has changed. Everything is kind of mapped to where it should be. LB is LB, LT is LT. You get the point. Everything's pretty much the same. But then we get to the paddles, okay? I do have an Xbox Elite Series Core controller actually in my hands, but I have went through 3 Xbox Elite Series controllers. That is 2 Xbox Elite Series 2 controllers, one being a replacement and one being another purchase. And then the Elite Series Core controller, which was a replacement as well. And I'll talk about the end of today's video because I'll be honest, the durability on these things are the greatest. But again, that's coming in the review at the end of today's video. But I do have the paddles with the controller on my Elite Series Core controller. The Elite Series Core, of course, comes with no paddles. But I do have the paddles, and what I am currently using, as you can see, it does say that I have B here, and X here, Y here, and A here. I am only using one paddle, and that one paddle is on the bottom right side there. It shows a long paddle for the A there. I'm actually using one of the shorter paddles on the bottom there. So my pro tip for this is, and kind of, I'm going to say it as well, this is more of a preference thing. So what I use isn't like the best when it comes to paddles, okay? Paddles is completely, how would I put it? Just personal preference. It doesn't matter, kind of, there's no best setting for really paddles, right? You either are able to be one of those people who can use 1 paddle, 2 paddles, 3 paddles, 4 paddles, or you might not even want to use any paddles at all. You might want the Elite Series Core controller or Elite Series 2 controller for other reasons. So me personally, I use the 1 paddle, which is A. Obviously, I'm not covering MW3 settings specifically in the game, which I do have a video for, by the way, if you want to check that out, to kind of pair those settings with the Elite Series controller, because obviously I use those settings in unison with using this Elite controller. But I have the A button set to jumping, and jumping is basically, my paddle is basically set to jumping. That's all I have. I don't really see any uses for the other ones, and I've tried using the other paddles. It just doesn't work for me. I accidentally click the buttons a lot. I sometimes have I miss the paddle sometimes. Me personally, I can only use the 1 paddle. I've tried using more than 1. I've tried using 2, 3, 4. It just does not work for me. So again, I'm going to say here, personal preference, well, I'll start with actually saying go into a practice match and see how many paddles you can have with the controller before it gets uncomfortable. I'd say make sure you're as comfortable with the controller in your hand as possible, because that's kind of the benefit of the Xbox Elite Series controllers, which is they can, make things more comfortable for you. Instead of having to move your thumb off the thumbstick, you can use the A button to jump. You can use B to crouch, slide, whatever it may be set to. You might be melee. You can have X set to reload, Y when you want to, make the cool little Y movement clips, I guess. But yeah, for me personally, I use 1 paddle. It's on the bottom right, and I use a short paddle for that. So again, you can use a long paddle there, of course, like you normally should. But I use the short paddles there. I'd experiment with that with you guys. Try and find what works for you. Again, it's all personal preference, but I'd go into a private match, see how many paddles work, try them in different positions and see what works best for you. But if you want to know what I'm using, it is the 1A paddle. It is on the right hand bottom side, and it is a just map to jump. Everything else is the same. Next up, left stick. Now, this is the stuff that is really, really important. There is only ever 1 controller on the market that I believe can actually do this, which is, change how the aiming basically works, or the movement works with your controller, how it actually detects your range of motion on the thumbstick. I believe that is the PS5 Pro controller, but obviously I'm on Xbox, so I'm not really going to be using the PS5 Pro controller. But if you have the PS5 Pro controller, then you can kind of do the same thing. I'm sure they have the same sensitivity curves and calculations. But anyway, we're not talking about PlayStation, talk about Xbox. So, left sticks. Leave it on sensitivity curve default. I have experimented with this. None of these really do anything. Instant does make it more responsive, but I don't really see the massive benefit of it. I'd rather just keep it on default. And the calculation is on default of radio, and I just leave it at that because it's movement. Movement is not that important. It really doesn't change anything. There's nothing special really about changing the left stick. However, right stick. This is important. I'm going to talk a bit in depth about this one. So, sensitivity curve, leave it on default. Do not mess with this. I've tried the different ones. It's just, how would I put it? It doesn't work very well. Like, it seems very random at times. It doesn't seem consistent feeling with your aim when you change this to any of these, which you can, like, so as you can see, you can change it to lane and adjust the curve and that, but it just doesn't seem very consistent. However, I would recommend that everyone, no matter what, just change to true diagonals and thank me later. This will track your exact thumbstick movement. This is the #1 best setting for this right stick here, and you will definitely feel the benefit of this. It is much better to aim with. It's very precise. You can, snap onto targets quickly. You can make those minor adjustments at distance when you need to. It is the best of both worlds. And pairing this with dynamic in Modern Warfare 3 is an absolutely incredible setting, and one you definitely need to take advantage of, because again, not a lot of controllers, if any, have the benefit of true diagonals calculation. I'm pretty sure every standard controller is set to radial or axis independent, I believe, but I'm pretty sure the standard is radial. But true diagonals is a game changer. Definitely want to use this on your Elite Series 2 controllers or Xbox Elite Series Core controllers. Both will be able to take advantage of this setting. Next up, we're going to go over triggers, okay? This is another important one. Now, I will talk about trigger stops and that, because both controllers do have that. But so first of all, I set left trigger to 0 and 1. As you can see, as soon as I press the left trigger, that is a full press. What that means is basically as soon as I press it, instead of it ramping up, and it goes from like slightly aiming to fully aiming, etc. Or if you're driving a car, essentially, it's not gonna, speed all the way up. It's just gonna hit maximum press of an accelerator sort of thing. But obviously, we're talking about FPS games here. But 0 to 1 makes it an instant press for both the left trigger and the right trigger. So as soon as you press it, regardless of whether you have a trigger stop on or not, it's going to be an instant press. You are going to get the maximum press as soon as you feel that trigger go in. But I do also use the trigger stops. Not on the left side. On the left side, I do have it default. There is no trigger stop actually active on the controller, but I am getting a press as soon as I basically touch the left trigger. However, on the right side, I do have the trigger stop fully in. So as soon as I press it in, like, I can't go any further. And this is great for when you want to, use those semi-auto weapons, which in Modern Warfare 3, a lot of the semi-auto weapons seem very, like, either uncapped or have a really, really high fire rate. So you can hit the trigger really, really fast with those. And it's very beneficial. You'll be able to basically shoot more bullets than most people can when you are using the trigger stop paired with 0 to 1 on the right trigger. So definitely do that. Take advantage of that. I personally would say to set your trigger to the maximum possible on the right trigger, make it as minimum press as possible, and then set it to 0 to 1, and you will be hitting that trigger instantly. And again, semi-auto weapons, you could probably turn them pretty much fully automatic doing this. Next up, vibration. This is one that I've seen a lot of people do. I don't know why people have vibration on. So in my Modern Warfare 3 settings video, which again you can go check out to pair with the controller, of course. But the vibration, I don't understand people who use this and have this on. I get the immersive feeling in that. However, it's going to make your aim go all over the place. So to make sure, even though I do have it set to off in the actual in-game settings in Modern Warfare 3, I have all of these turned completely off. I don't need the controller vibrating in my hand. And also that it will probably save the lifespan of your controller, which is something you'll want to do with this controller, because it is something that I will talk about as we get to the mini review kind of towards the end of this video here. But yeah, set all of these to as minimum as possible. You do not want these on. You don't want the controller vibrating in your hand. It'll ruin your aim. It'll make the controller shake around in your hand, which I know it's not a dramatic. It's not like an earthquake going on in your hands, but it is still going to mess you up sometimes with your aim in that. And when you can be a lot more steady with your aim, having no vibration in the controller whatsoever. And again, it will preserve the life of your controller for a lot longer, that you will want to do with this controller, both the Elite Series 2 controller and the Elite Series Core controller. And then finally, let's go over to color. This doesn't really do anything. Maybe it adds aim assist, who knows? But I changed mine to purple. It's kind of a nice little saying. Makes your controller a little bit more cooler, But yeah, I have it set to purple. You can change this if you want to. And yeah, we'll go over some small things as well that you can't really see in the video. And unfortunately, I don't have a hand cam. I might work on getting a hand cam for these videos in the future. But obviously, if you buy the Elite Series 2 controller, you do come with a lot of accessories. Elite Series Core controller, unfortunately, does not come with the paddles, the D-pad and all that. That's kind of why the Elite Series Core controller is cheaper than the Elite Series 2 controller. And that's not a bad thing. I will recommend something at the end of the video about that. But with the Elite Series 2, you do have paddles, etc. and all that stuff. And what I'd recommend is, on the left stick, I have it as the normal default stick. However, on the right stick is also the Xbox default stick. However, on the right stick, I am using the Black Ops 4 Control Freaks. So I am going to talk about Control Freaks a little bit. It's something that I personally I use a lot. I'm not actually sponsored either, so if I was, I would have given you a code, but unfortunately we're not at that point. Maybe one day, maybe we'll have our own code, and then you guys can take benefit from that. But on the right stick, it is basically a tool stick. So if you are someone who doesn't have a control freak or doesn't want to, invest in a control freak, which is perfectly fine, but again, I'd heavily say that you should, because a control freak is very, very good. As I said, it's a Black Ops 4 control freak. I've had it since Black Ops 4. It's not run down. The rubber's not coming off. It's amazing. They cost like, what, £5-10? And they last forever. It's amazing. And it's got great grip, great comfort. I've got pretty huge thumbs is kind of why I've got it, because the Xbox sticks are a little bit on the small side when it comes to, putting your thumb over it. But this has great comfort. And yeah, I highly recommend getting a tool control freak on your right sticks if you can. If not, just use the normal default Xbox tool sticks, which do come with the controller. It's basically the same thing. You just have less surface area than the Black Ops 4 control freak that I am using. But again, to repeat, left stick, I have the default Xbox stick. You can use the dome stick. However, I will talk about this. I have had the issue with the dome stick where when I've used it after a very long time, I'd say after about a year or a year and a half, they start to spin around. They come loose a little bit and they start to spin around. They're not actually how would I put it? They're not normal. The sticks aren't stuck to the thing. The dome stick actually starts to rotate whilst you're trying to move and stuff. And it's very off-putting. So I've done that with 2 dome sticks. Unfortunately, those 2 dome sticks have now broken for me. Not a big issue. Again, it's only movement. There's nothing crazy about that. But it is something that is a little bit on the disappointing side. It's not very well built. It should probably last longer than, a year or 2. Like I said, I've got a control freak that's lasted since Black Ops 4. I don't know how many years that is, but it's at least 5-6 years now that a control freak has lasted that long. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. But yeah, I either use a dome stick or the default stick, like I said. Right stick is a normal stick, but I do have a tool control freak on it. So if you want to get the best possible aim, I'd recommend using a tool stick, whether that be using the Xbox tool sticks itself or using a tool control freak. Like I said, and I recommend that if you can, of course, get one or want to get one. The D-pad doesn't matter. I use the normal D-pad. So the one that's shown on the screen there isn't actually the one I'm using. D-pad doesn't really do anything, Call of Duty. It's not beneficial whatsoever. And then, yeah, there's nothing else too crazy, really. I can't think of... Oh, stick tension. Before I forget, I always forget. Stick tension. This is a big, big thing for the controller, and you definitely want to take advantage of this. Left stick is on default, okay? So as it comes with the controller, it is a normal default stick. There is no tension in it whatsoever. It is as loose as possible, basically, which does not matter. Again, it's just movement. Movement is not that amazing. It is not, that incredible, or, you don't need a stiff stick, essentially. However, on the right stick, paired with the tool control freak and all these aim settings, you need to have the stick tension to maximum. So what you do get with both controllers, so even though there's not much accessories that come with the Elite Series core controller, there is this special key. It's a metal key that you will see. Basically, remove the thumbstick, and with that, you'll be able to see there's a sort of cross pattern in there. You put that in there and turn it to the maximum tension, which is so left. What is it? I believe it's go to left to make it the tightest possible, and then right to make it as loose as possible. So let me just check that here. Yeah, so left is loose, actually. So left is what you want to turn it to make it as loose as possible. But when you want the maximal possible tension with the thumbstick, which I'd highly recommend, turn it all the way to the right. You'll see the thing go down, and if it's loose, you'll see it all the way up. But you'll want it on maximum tension. Reason for that being, having the controller stick be very stiff makes it a lot harder for you to mess up your aim. It's not moving all over the place. It's a lot more precise. Having that bit of resistance when you're trying to aim is massively beneficial. So I'd recommend fully left stick, leave it as default, does not matter, but right stick, have it set to the maximum possible tension. You will massively feel the benefit of that, paired with the aiming settings, of course, and of course my Modern Warfare 3 settings, which again, if you guys want to check out, that's up to you guys, to pair with the Elite Series 2 controller and Elite Series core controller. But that covers the settings. I hope I've got everything with the settings for Modern Warfare 3 in Season 2 with the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller and Elite Series core controller. Any questions that I didn't answer or you feel you want to answer more, leave in the comments down below. I will answer those questions fully out and as best as I can, whether that be, certain things about the settings or D-pads and, the thumbstick tension, etc. I will answer all of that in the comment section down below. But for now, this bit here is going to kind of be the mini review for those of you who kind of want to, are a bit on the fence maybe about do I want this controller? What's the benefits? What's the cons? As someone who's used both controllers for 5 years, I have, like I said at the start, went through 3 controllers. So I started off with the Elite Series 2 controller, and I didn't buy a warranty. So I relied on the Xbox warranty, which was 1 year. Didn't have to use it. However, I got to about the 1.5 years to 2 year mark, and then my controller wore out. And my controller actually didn't develop any, like, stick drift that most people, I believe, say that they have issues with when it comes to this controller. None of these controllers I've had stick drift issues. It's actually been the RB button. So after so many times, the RB button does break. It is a very poor thing with the controller, and I will say that is the massive con to this controller. You do want to get a warranty with this controller, whether it be a 3-year one, 2-year one, some sort of warranty other than just the Xbox warranty that comes, the warranty that comes with it. So if you buy this from, say, Best Buy or Game or Argos, whatever retailer you can get this from, make sure you get some sort of cover that helps, allows you to replace this controller, because the durability of both controllers is not great. It's a massive, how would I put it, negative of the controller. It is very disappointing for what is a very expensive controller, but you definitely want to get some sort of warranty other than relying on the Xbox warranty. You will find that, even if you're one of those people who's very careful with controllers, like I am myself, you will end up having to replace the controller. And, it's a very expensive purchase. So I'd recommend massively getting a warranty for this controller. Whether you buy the Elite Series 2 controller or the Elite Series Core controller, definitely get a warranty regardless of which one you buy. The pros of this controller, being able to replace things like, changing the thumbsticks, changing the tension in that. If something doesn't work for you, you can change this controller on the fly. You can make different settings. You can have 3 different setups and profiles. You can have it set to racing games, Call of Duty, of course, like we discussed today, different FPS games as well, like Rainbow Six Siege. There's a lot of customizable things with this controller that means you're kind of not stuck with the controller. So like with most pro controllers, you get it how it is, and if you don't like the placement of certain buttons and stuff, that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't change that. With the Elite Series Core controller and Elite Series 2 controller, you can do that. You can change things. You can change which D-pad you want. You can change the thumbsticks. You can even buy off-brand thumbsticks and off-brand D-pads, off-brand paddles that might be a lot better than the Xbox official paddles and stuff. But I'd recommend the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller as well as the Elite Series controller. I recommend both of them. I do think they're very good controllers in their own. The Elite Series 2 is one of those where I think if you want that and you want the specific paddles and all that stuff that comes with it, then definitely get that. But I will recommend the Elite Series Core controller as well. And the reason I'd recommend highly the Elite Series Core controller is because here's kind of my pro tip on it. It's the cheaper of the two, of course, because it doesn't come with the paddles and that. However, you can buy off-brand paddles that I'm pretty sure are just as good, if not maybe even better, than the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller's actual paddles and accessories and stuff. And you would get them at a way cheaper price just because they're not obviously official from Microsoft. So I'd recommend overall the Elite Series Core controller for the price point and the fact that you can buy the paddles and accessories separately and get it for way cheaper overall. But yeah, on top of that, like I said, get the warranty. It's great customizability. Just the durability of these controllers isn't the best. But this is a controller I've used for 5 years now. I do not regret it. Like I said, I've been through 3, and the story of each is the first 1.5 years to 2 years. I didn't have the warranty, so I had to buy a new controller. When I bought the second controller, I got the warranty. I had a 3-year warranty. I got to about 2.5 years of that controller before the RB button wore out, and I couldn't, do much of it. So I ended up getting the warranty, and my cover allowed me to basically buy a new controller, and I ended up buying the Elite Series Core controller to then save myself a little bit of money. So I got given the money back basically for buying the Elite Series 2 and then bought the Elite Series Core instead because I already had the paddles and that, and the Elite Series Core controller is literally the same as the Elite Series 2, just without the accessories. What else is there to really talk about? But yeah, that's kind of my thing on that. I like the controller. I think the controller's fantastic. There's not much other better controllers on the market. There are some pretty good ones that I'm yet to experiment with and will happily test out. But I feel this is the best controller on the market still to this day, even with the bad durability issues. Hopefully it's something that Microsoft works on and fixing, maybe getting an Elite Series 3 in the future or something. But also on top of that, actually, this controller can be maintained as well if you're one of those people who's quite good with repairs and stuff. It is quite easy, it's quite easy to get into the controller and actually fix these things yourself, such as the RB button. Me personally, I'm not a very handy person, so I haven't risked it myself. But if you're one of those people who wants to open up the controller and be able to replace your RB buttons, and that, you can do that with this quite easily. It's not too bad to do, and would be something that if you're one of those people who is quite handy with repairs and stuff, the controller's not that bad for durability if you're able to replace things yourself. But that's kind of it. That is my big Xbox Elite Series 2 and Xbox Elite Series Core controller settings for Modern Warfare 3, as well as my kind of review, what's the pros and the cons of this controller. Any questions about today's video, leave them down below in the comment section. I will happily answer them. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, notifications on. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.